Luna was stuck on a puzzle piece, getting frustrated. I jumped in to help. She pushed my hand away and burst into tears. I thought I was being a good dad.
Helping too fast tells her you can't do this. Long term, you steal 80% of her learning, and she'll quit faster on hard things later.
Wait, helping is bad now?
Timing is everything. There's one move that lets her solve it without melting down. I'll show you next. I know that sounds very well.
My hand moved toward the piece before my brain had even made a decision. I was already reaching for it. May grabbed my arm, and she said, "Wait." And I looked at my hand and thought, "How did you get there?"
He genuinely had no awareness he was about to do it. The impulse fired before the conscious thought.
That reflex scared me more than the actual behavior, because if I'm doing it without thinking, how many times have I done it when no one was watching, when Luna wasn't even frustrated yet?
Let me explain what's happening in the brain when a child struggles and solves a problem on their own. The brain releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to reward and motivation.
The feel-good signal.
More than that, it builds a neural pathway, a literal, physical connection that says, I can figure things out. I struggled, and I got through it. Every time that loop completes, struggle, effort, resolution, that pathway gets stronger.
And when a parent steps in too quickly?
The loop doesn't complete. The dopamine doesn't fire. The pathway doesn't form. And over thousands of small rescues. Because this happens constantly, not just occasionally, children learn a different lesson.
I can't do this alone. I need someone to finish it for me.
That's not a character flaw. That's not laziness. That is exactly what was modeled. The environment trained them to expect rescue before resolution.
Okay, so what are we actually risking here long term? Because I feel like I need to hear the full weight of this before I can take it seriously.
Research on learned helplessness shows children who are overhelped in early years have significantly lower tolerance for frustration later. Not just in childhood, it follows them. Hang in. The move is so subtle, most parents skip it. Coming next.
Lower tolerance, meaning what exactly?
They avoid challenges before they even start. They give up faster when things get hard. They have reduced belief in their own competence, even when they're objectively capable.
And these outcomes aren't dramatic. You wouldn't look at a kid and say that child was overhelped when she was 2.
No, it's quiet. The student who shuts down at the first hard question. The kid who won't try new things because the risk of not succeeding immediately feels unbearable. That's what learned helplessness looks like in practice.
So what's the first thing we can do differently? Because I can't promise my hand won't just move on its own again.
First method, count to 10 before moving. When you see Luna struggling, count silently. 10 seconds. That's it. 10 seconds of discomfort is not damage.
That's the actual learning happening in real time.
Exactly. The frustrated grunt, the furrowed brow, the moment of not knowing. That is the brain working. That is the struggle that builds the pathway. Your job is to let it happen.
10 seconds feels long when your child is frustrated. I will say that.
It does. And it gets easier. But the first few times you do it, you will feel like you are failing as a parent. You are not. You are doing the harder, better thing.
Second method.
Ask before acting. Instead of stepping in, ask, do you want help or do you want to try? You're giving her agency. You're treating her like someone with a preference about her own learning.
And the interesting thing is, kids usually say try, don't they?
Almost always. Because they want to do it themselves. The impulse to figure it out is natural and strong. We just don't give them the space to express it before we've already intervened.
So she might actually not want my help. And I just kept giving it to her without ever asking.
And every time you did that, you took the problem from her hands before she could discover she was capable of solving it.
Third method.
Celebrate the attempt, not just the result. When Luna stays with a hard task, even if she doesn't succeed, you say, you stayed with that even when it was hard. That took persistence.
Not good job, which is about the outcome, but something specific about the struggle itself.
Because you're teaching her that the struggle has value. That effort is the thing worth celebrating, not just success. And that changes how she approaches the next hard thing.
She's not only praised when she wins, she's praised for staying in the game.
And that is the difference between a child who tries and a child who avoids.
So the framework is wait, ask, celebrate, wait 10 seconds before moving, ask if they want help, celebrate the attempt regardless of outcome.
Wait, ask, celebrate. 3 steps in order. And the most important one is the first, because if you skip the wait, you never reach the other 2.
Okay, I need to confess. This morning Luna was putting on her shoes. It was taking forever, and I just did them, without asking, without counting, without anything.
How long was she working on them before you stepped in?
Maybe 45 seconds. She was doing fine. She was figuring it out. I just got impatient.
You know what's funny? You asked me for directions before even trying Google Maps. Every time.
That is different. That is completely different. I'm a grown adult with time constraints.
Is it different? Or did someone just never make you sit with the discomfort long enough to build that pathway yourself?
I hate how often you're right. I want it on record that I hate it. Okay, tell them the story about the boy in your classroom.
I had a 3-year-old boy who would cry at any task that didn't work immediately. First attempt failed. Tears. Not frustration, tears. Giving up tears. He had already decided it was over.
Because that was the pattern he'd learned. Help always arrived before he could find out if he was capable.
Exactly. His brain had never learned to pause between struggle and giving up. That pause is where resilience lives. I started the 10 count with him, and it took 3 weeks before he stopped crying at hard things.
3 weeks. And then what happened?
One morning, he spent 25 minutes pouring water from one jug to another, alone, no one intervening. He didn't succeed every pour. Water went everywhere. He kept going anyway.
He learned something bigger than pouring.
He learned, I can stay with this. Discomfort is not the end. That lesson will follow him far longer than any puzzle he ever solved.
I keep coming back to my hand moving before my brain did, because I think that reflex is actually love. Compressed into pure instinct, she's struggling, help her.
It is love. And learning when not to act on it is one of the hardest parts of parenting. It goes against every protective instinct.
Here's the question for today, and you don't need to answer me. Think of one thing you do for your child every day that she could probably do herself if you waited 10 more seconds.
Your homework, the next time you feel the impulse to help. Count to 10 first. Just once today. See what she does when you wait.
And tell us in the comments what you noticed. Did she solve it? Did she ask for help? What happened in those 10 seconds? We want to know.
If this episode made you think about how you help, share it with a parent who might be reaching for the puzzle piece right now.
Subscribe so you get the next episode. And if my hand moves towards something before my brain does again today, May will stop me. She's very good at that. Bye.
I have become very fast, faster than the impulse.